Every single season for fantasy football, we see second-year wide receivers make that jump to the great and elite tier for fantasy point scoring. So today I'm giving you 5 wide receivers that can make that jump and win you your league. Now, the data behind second-year wide receivers breaking out more than any other year is really, really strong. This data is courtesy of RotoViz. This is an unpaid ad, guys. I just want to mention, right? I use RotoViz, rotoviz.com, for basically all of my advanced stats. I pay for their subscription. I absolutely love them. And I used this data last year to predict Jackson Smith and Jigba, okay, as my number 1 sleeper. So I'll just pull up these receipts real quick right here. Here we are, August 5th last year. It's easy to forget just how dominant JSN was in college. Better than Garrett Wilson, better than Olave at a younger age. Similar college sophomore seasons to Marvin Harrison. Played through injury his rookie season. And here you have it. Here's the same exact graph we're using this year with this over 15% breakout rate for year 2 wide receivers, the most among any age group. Okay, it continues. I said the ceiling for JSN is like Amon-Ra St. Brown level slot receiving productions. Amon-Ra St. Brown and JJ at this point last year were the most yardage from the slot over the past 2 seasons, so 2023 and 2022. I said JSN can go in, do exactly that, and then finally I put it all together and said that JSN is the number 1 sleeper for 2024 fantasy football. He was a my guy, second-year breakout on the way, and yes, finished as a top 10 wide receiver. So needless to say, we're going to be going over 5 candidates today who can do that. And we're actually going to, once we do the mock draft at the end of the episode, see who really is like the breakout. Who do I think is the next JSN? And again, guys, check out RotoViz. This article, Should We Still Be Chasing Year 2 Wide Receiver Breakouts, really just takes you through that. They have the highest breakout rate among any year group for wide receivers. They have the highest PPR added by year, highest receiving expected points added by year, average route runs by year. Guess what? Year 2 is the most. So definitely check out RotoViz, guys. Again, not a paid ad. I literally just use them for everything. And basically the thoughts today are based on their data, okay? So as I said, sophomore wide receivers on average, they run more total routes. As a result, they generate more expected fantasy points. And as a result, they score more PPR fantasy points, okay? So let's hop into our first candidate for this breakout, guys. And it's going to be Marvin Harrison on the Cardinals. Now, this is kind of the most obvious one on the list, and there's a lot of MHJ slander I'm noticing. I'm noticing a lot of people are out on him, whatever. I will admit that the 3rd round price tag isn't my favorite. I do wish it was a 4th or a 5th round, to be honest. And honestly, if we drafted Marvin, okay, 3rd, 4th, 5th round last year, I don't know how upset we'd be. Like, we would be let down for sure on his production, but guys, the utilization was actually really good. The only reason we're so upset about Marvin Harrison is because we drafted him in the 1st round, which, looking back on it, was a little dumb, okay? His rookie utilization last year was great. Ran 523 routes, okay, which was 13th most among all wide receivers. If we look at the first qualification, average routes added by year. Year 2 wide receivers add the most routes, guys. They add about 65 routes on average. So if Marvin Harrison adds 65 routes to his already 523 ran, he's approaching that 600 mark, 600 routes run in a year, top 10 at the position easily, okay? 116 targets, those targets will increase, okay? That was 19th last year, and 23% target share. So I really see all of these metrics going up. Now, and he's going to be better, I think. So the bad part was that only 71% of his targets were catchable. That's not good. 3rd worst among all wide receivers with 80-plus targets last year. I actually view that more as a Kyler Murray issue. So if Murray begins to connect with Marvin Harrison, all of these metrics go up. Routes run, targets, target percentage. Marvin really will have a clear path to a top 12 wide receiver finish. What's my evidence to suggest that Murray, just hit my mic, excuse me, that Murray will connect with Marvin in 2025 and increase that catchable target rate? My evidence is that he's done it with worse wide receivers. For example, if not so long ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we saw Hollywood Brown in his first year coming over from Baltimore. He was, when healthy for those 2 seasons with Murray, a top 10, if not top 5 wide receiver for many stretches there. When both of those players were healthy, he was a wide receiver 1. Marvin Harrison is 10 times the receiver that Hollywood Brown is. And it might seem silly, like I'm reaching, but We really haven't seen a true number one option for Kyler since Hollywood Brown. And the entire Hollywood Brown experience with Kyler was riddled by injuries for both of those players. So I'm really excited to see Marvin this year, see what happens. Now, we're going to start getting into some guys deeper down the draft board, right? You didn't click on this video for me to tell you that to draft Marvin Harrison. He's going top 40 overall, worst case. So the first guy who's going a little later is Rome Odunze. Now, we kind of weren't expecting much from him his rookie year. He was good for stretches there, okay? But the underlying metrics, yet again, and we're really calling on the routes run number here, 495 routes in his rookie season. That's 14th most, and 94 air yards per game. We have Ben Johnson coming over, okay? Ben Johnson's Detroit offense last year, 278 receiving yards per game, second most. 0.37 EPA per target, second most. 7% touchdowns per target rate, third most. And last year we saw, to close the season, weeks 11 through 17, that St. Brown and Jamison Williams were both wide receiver one. So I really think there's a world that exists where DJ Moore, right, and Rome Odunze can really hit their fantasy potential. Both can be top 15 wide receivers. Rome Odunze is a complete, well-rounded monster wide receiver. So I really do believe that both these guys can produce. All right, moving on. Our third guy on the list of 5 is Keon Coleman. He really passed the rookie eye test in year one when he was fully healthy and when he was in a full-time role. Not only did he look the part as a real wide receiver one, but he produced. There really were only 2 games last year where Coleman was fully healthy and Coleman was playing a full allotment of snaps as a starting wide receiver. It was week 7 and week 8. Both of those weeks, he finished as the wide receiver 13 for fantasy, 14.5 fantasy points in week 7, 15.5 fantasy points in week 8. And he was just starting to produce, like that trend was beginning. You need 3 data points, okay, for a trend. But then he got injured, and he was out for 4 weeks, was never the same after he returned. So he seems to be crushing it in training camp so far. I see him now in 2025, the Bills, that wide receiver 1 spot is still open, okay? Elijah Moore, Khalil Shakir, they're good. They'll be solid for fantasy maybe as a wide receiver 4, but a true wide receiver 1, a true wide receiver 1, like Diggs was, for example, I'm talking, for Josh Allen. Keon Coleman can be that guy, and I think he has the best chance of any of those wide receivers in Buffalo to do it. The offense will be top 3 in scoring yet again. Now, here's the guy who, in my opinion, and we will crown this person. Okay, we will crown this wide receiver at the end of the episode because I need to think on it a little more. But Ricky Pearsall is the next man on this list. Activated off the PUP this week. I'm recording this July 28th, early in the morning. So we've yet to see if he's actually been activated, but I believe he is. Okay, it's like 6 a.m. right now, so we haven't heard about practice today. But he has first-round draft capital. Okay, from just a season ago, and oftentimes, guys, if we're betting on the next JSN, the next second-year breakout wide receiver, it starts with draft capital. JSN, first-rounder. Ricky Pearsall, first-rounder. He ended his rookie season on a high note, as did JSN a year ago. For Pearsall in week 17, 25 fantasy points. He was top 8. In week 18, 16 fantasy points, top 15 wide receiver. And I just look around the offense, and all I see is just someone needs to step up here. Jawan Jennings is unhappy with his current deal, so he wants a contract or might request to be traded. Moral of the story is he's not happy. Ayuk is not healthy, not ready to play right now. Deebo Samuel's gone. George Kittle's another year older. I believe he's 31 now. He's a tight end, so he's not going to get 15 targets a game, okay? McCaffrey's healthy, but you never know. So who's next? Who is left? I think it's Pearsall. I really think that Ricky Pearsall, assuming he can stay healthy, beat this hamstring injury, get a full training camp minus this first week, I think he can be the guy, all right, in San Francisco, and he's an early candidate for my next JSN, okay? And the final guy on the list, guys, before we get into the mock draft, is Xavier Worthy. Talk about strong finishes to a rookie year. This kind of went, like, under the radar, but in fantasy playoffs, weeks 15 through 17, 21 fantasy points per game. That was top 10. 10-plus targets per game. Magic number, as you guys know, who watch this channel, is 9-plus targets per game. Receivers who hit that 9-plus targets and play 15, 14 game, very high percentage chance they're going to finish as a top 12 wide receiver. And in the playoffs, Xavier Worthy was really a key to them making the Super Bowl, the Chiefs. 85% of snaps played, and he had a touchdown per game in the playoffs. He is a locked-in Chiefs starting wide receiver, locked in, okay? He has a unique role in the offense where he gets the jet sweeps, he gets the bombs, things like that. And Rashee Rice is going to be suspended for most likely 6 games. So fire up Xavier Worthy, locked in wide receiver 2 to start the season. Now, let's move into the mock draft. As you guys know, we're going to just randomize our position here. Just want to check the settings and make sure there's no timing. I can talk and yap all I want. 60-second timer was on, so thank goodness I checked. All right, let's update that. And let's go ahead and click start the draft. Let's see if we can grab some of these receivers and how we're going to draft these receivers. Now, we ended up with the 2nd pick overall. I feel like we've been getting really lucky with that pick lately. I'm turning off my face cam so you guys can see the draft board. All right, we're 2nd overall. CeeDee Lamb goes 1st. And I'm going to go ahead and select 1 Jamar Chase, right? So if I have a first 2 pick, 101 or 102, I'm taking Chase or Bijan. I typically lean Bijan because I think the wide receivers at the 2-3 turn are much stronger than the running backs there. Now, with that being said, we're going to be targeting wide receivers a bit later in this draft. So at 2-3 here, we will probably go RB, unless Trey McBride's available. And he is, so let's see. So Trey is available. Just for fun, I'll probably take him. Yeah, let's go Trey McBride here at 23rd overall, and then we'll go RB. We'll take Chase Brown. So through our first 3 picks, we have Jamar Chase, Trey McBride, and Chase Brown. Typically, I would kind of avoid the same team for wide receiver and RB. And Chase Brown and Jamar Chase, maybe would have gone Kyron there if it was real life. But again, let's just try to prove this point that there's a lot of value at wide receiver late. Again, we're looking at Worthy, and I'm just going to go ahead and start marking these guys off. So Worthy, let's add him to the queue. Queue him up. Let's add Pearsall to the queue. Queue him up. Let's add Keon Coleman to the queue. And who else are we talking? We talked a little bit about Marvin. We'll probably miss him in this draft. Rome Odunze. Okay, let's add Rome to the queue. Now, it seems stupid, and I don't edit these videos because I literally want you guys to see every single click that I make for my drafts. That's what I want you to see. So when you see me go through and queue these players, I don't start any draft without doing that. I have a list of players that I want, a list of sleepers, a list of players I would draft above their ADP, a list of players I'm fading. I don't queue those, but the first 2 groups, right, I queue them up, and I target them in drafts, and I'm fine paying for them. And I see when other players are drafting, if those picks start going, it's just a subtle reminder subconsciously that I need to go in on those guys that I like. I do it before every single draft. All right. So we're up in the 4th. Let's take a look at these ADPs here. So it's too early for Xavier Worthy, too early for Odunze, Coleman, Pearsall. We have 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 tight end. If Burrow's available, would be pretty funny to just have the entire Bengals offense. Let's see. He's available. Yeah, let's have some fun with it, and we're going to go with Joe Burrow. We have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, and Trey McBride. That should be about 80%, if not every single touchdown accounted for the Bengals offense. No problem there. We're up in the 5th, and we're probably going to go back to the RB well with Chuba Hubbard. Okay, so the team through 5 rounds: Burrow, Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, Jamar Chase, and Trey McBride. What this team needs now is wide receivers. Let's see if Xavier Worthy makes it back to us. He does not. He goes in the 5th round. Totally fine. We'll queue up the wide receiver position here. I have Jalen Waddle on the board, Chris Olave. I'm starting to like those guys a little bit more. Let's go ahead and draft Chris Olave in the 6th. And now in the 7th, right, Rome Odunze goes 1 pick after us at the 6-12, which is a complete reach. A complete reach. That makes me upset. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play a little... because I want to see how the team looks with Odunze. So a complete reach, I mean, that's like 15 picks before where Rome's going. So I'm going to remove him from Team 12. I'm going to give Team 12 Jalen Waddle. Set player, Jalen Waddle. And we're going to take Odunze at the 7th. We are going to draft him at the 7th. Set player, Rome. Yeah, 79 ADP going at 6-12. Okay, let's resume the draft. The draft is resumed. And Rome is our flex. Rome is our first flex here. So looking at the roster, guys, we have Burrow, Chase Brown, and Chuba Hubbard, Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, and Rome Odunze is our flex. What if Rome Odunze is the next JSN? And this team now has Jamar Chase and JSN of 2024. This is exactly the type of stuff you should be thinking of, right? Do we like this team? Admittedly, week 1, I'm probably not trying to start Rome Odunze. I want to give it a week. So still drafting here, we need another flex option. On the board, Ricky Pearsall's coming up, 97 ADP. I'll go ahead and select him, and then I'll go back to our flexes. Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs. Yeah, maybe. Ramondre Stevenson at the RB position. Who else is available? Scadaboo, Tyjae Spears. We'll go with another wide receiver in Khalil Shakir. I'm looking for a week 1 starter because Pearsall and Odunze as my 2 flex options, I'm not super confident about them in week 1. They could come out, set the world on fire, go crazy. That'd be awesome. The team would be great. But week 1, I'm most likely starting Khalil Shakir over Rome Odunze in that flex spot. Coming back to us in the 10th round here. Keon Coleman's still on the board. Love to grab him. We do. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers in a row. I'll probably go back and draft J.K. Dobbins in the 11th there. So the team is looking great, guys. I'm very happy with this team. We have the Burrow and Jamar Chase stack. We have Chase Brown, too, at RB with Chuba Hubbard. So the RBs really are high quality. The wide receivers behind Jamar Chase, we have Chris Olave, and then we got our guys. Rome Odunze, Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman. Breakout potential, sophomore breakout everywhere. And really just guys that can hit that high ceiling, supercharge the roster. Our final pick in the draft, I've been liking drafting a late tight end lately. Brenton Strange here, great pick in the 12th. And that's the final roster, guys. Final draft board, I'll just give it a little scroll through. All right, and that's going to do it. Yet again, Burrow and Chase stack. We have Chase Brown and Chuba Hubbard, Chris Olave, Trey McBride at tight end. This team is legit. This team is legit. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode today, guys. Peace.